Welcome to another episode at the Virtual Natural Healing Clinic, where we're having conversations to help you on your journey to health and happiness. Today, I'm joined by Charly, and we're going to talk about natural births and how that kind of plays into the entire picture of finding health and happiness. Charly is a chiropractor and mom of four. All four babies birthed naturally out her hoo-ha in her home. And so we're gonna do a little deep dive with Charly about that process and how it went.
I thought you said don't be weird. But let's be
I
honest. Everything.
I I
What?
can be weird. I
Oh,
can be
okay.
weird. I can be weird. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I want to know because you had your first child 9 years ago. Your most recent child 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
2.5. Yep.
Um, just tell me a little bit about your thoughts on the natural healing process. Like just give me a little just I want to hear about how you came to that. Was it scary? Why you decided that?
I got you. Um, right. So I think it's important to say that we're sisters, right? So when I go to say our mother had home births, that it was kind of something that I don't want to say it was expected, but it wasn't completely out of the norm for us. It's like, oh my God, what are you doing? My mom had 3 home births after having me. I'm the oldest of 4. And after experiencing a hospital birth where essentially she realized she has no rights in the hospital, she decided to do the rest either at home or at a birthing center where she could decide how she births a child. So I always knew if I was going to have children that was the only route to go. And I do firmly believe that, and I know that's kind of dogmatic, but there's no other way to give birth to a child that's honoring. It's the way that they're meant to come into this world. So that's really where I stand on it in an absolute level. Like I don't support hospital births, and I'm sure that sounds terrible, but how can you? How can you when you look at the statistics and how women are treated in the hospital and how the newborn is treated in hospital? Like, all statistics show that first and foremost, home birth is like in your favor, yours and your child's favor.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, not to pass judgment on anybody who decides to go to the hospital route. I think you and I are very fortunate that home birthing was in our purview because, like you said, our mom had 3 home births. Like for some other people, it's a super foreign, I think, and scary concept, and you just don't know what you don't know. I overheard a lady at a bar years ago just like she was like flippant because one of her kids was going to have a home birth and that's so stupid, that's so dangerous. What is she thinking? She's an idiot. And she was just going on and I almost went over there and said something to her, but she had alcohol in her and I decided not to. But I think there's really some stigma behind having home births at this day and age.
Well, and that's the problem is people. I hear so many times, just not from patients but women, when this topic comes up, that oh, I wanted to have a home birth, but I just didn't feel like it was safe enough, or my husband felt more comfortable having it at the hospital, and it's like we've been so indoctrinated by the medical field that number one has made birth an emergency, which it is not, and number two has capitalized on birth so incredibly much. It's like it's a business, right? Ricky Lake did her whole thing on her documentary on home birth. It's called The Business of Being Born because literally hospitals make so much money on your child coming into this world. And then you want to have that conversation about what's safer. Go look at the actual statistics. You are safer at home with a trained midwife.
Yeah, I believe it. And it's really unfortunate because there's such a smaller, I think, amount of babies getting born to home births that like if anything goes wrong, which, is things I'm not going to say things going wrong is a natural part of the birthing process, but things don't always go perfectly. And then everybody immediately blames the home birth.
Mm-hmm.
Not just, if something happens in a hospital, it's whatever, that's normal. But if something happens in a home birth, it's, oh my God, this big entire thing, you're so stupid because we have this whole other way of doing it that is quote unquote correct, which is
Right.
really unfortunate.
Well, that was another, and you might want to fact check this. Another thing that I just learned is what is an epidural? Like these women say they don't want to go through the natural birthing process, and we should just use the medications that we have now. And why wouldn't you in this modern day world take the easier route? Well, when you get things like an epidural, it's freaking fentanyl.
Hmm.
So I don't know, fact check it. But from my understanding, an epidural is fentanyl. I mean, we don't ever ask. We know the word epidural. It's become so normalized. What is it that's actually making you not be able to feel your childbirth? And then how does that get passed on to the child?
That's actually really interesting because I've never thought about what actually is an epidural. And just a very quick preliminary Google search, are epidurals fentanyl? The top answer is yes, fentanyl is frequently included in the medication mixture for an epidural. I think that's very interesting. I've never thought about that. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And then the epidural leads to Pitocin, because if you're going to shut down the processes down there, then you're going to have something to kick back up the contractions. And so these women get Pitocin, or they get Pitocin, and when you get bam, 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 bam contraction and no rest in between, yeah, you're going to need a freaking epidural. I don't care how badass you are. You're not meant to have contraction after contraction after contraction.
right. Well, and you bringing it back to, you said that birth is not an emergency and we're treating it as one. We're inducing, we're scheduling, we're jumping to C-sections. We are using Pitocin to bring in contractions. We're using epidurals to the whole system. It's like we do one thing for convenience and it leads to a side effect, and then we have to treat that side effect, and then we have to treat the side effect of the side effect, and then the side effect of the side effect of the side effect, and then all of a sudden babies are being born and we're spraying silver in their eyes so they don't have gonorrhea. It's just this entire, like you said, model that's, one, built to profit, but two, built off of insurance dictation. Not what's best for mother, not what's best for baby, what's best for the insurance model, what's best for the financial model, what's best to shunt liability.
Serve the
Yeah,
doctor. What's easier for them? So you lay in a bed so they can sit on a stool and help you pull the baby out for whatever reason. It's like that was introduced by the patriarch. I'm not going to sit here and be all mega feminist at all, but these are things when men entered childbirth, you saw a huge change in how childbirth happened, when really the easier way and more natural way, more likely than not, or most of the time, is going to be squatting or being on all fours or even side lying sometimes. But one of the hardest ways to give birth is on your back.
well, right. Well, and the whole birthing process relies on the downward flow of energy. And if you're on your back, there's no downward flow of energy happening anymore.
Well, and really it needs to be like when we're fully honoring the whole process of labor and birth, it needs to be what the mom intuitively knows she needs to do. And it's really her and the baby working together in a dance. And when you add all these medications, you add all these stipulations. The mom has to have a fetal monitor strapped to her. She has to have an IV. She's got to lay in this bed. It doesn't allow the mother and the baby to flow intuitively to bring the baby earthside. I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming out that birth is one of the most psychedelic experiences that you can have because of the way that hormones are released. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I fully understand the physiological aspect of that. I know some practitioners have said it's relative to like DMT, right? DMT is, you probably could explain it better than me.
Well, it's a chemical our brain naturally makes, and then people do it to induce, higher amounts to induce psychedelic experiences.
Well, it's like called the God molecule, right? It's what we release when we die. It's like the God molecule, and it's used as recreationally, or I guess in spiritual practices, right? To kind of the quantum jump, I would say, to like. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on here, but you
can say whatever you want.
Okay, you kind of speed up your lessons in life by doing it. I'm not saying to go out and do that, but if it's something that's naturally released in childbirth, I think that speaks volumes. And not to mention, like, again, like while we're being a little woo woo, sorry,
Oh, I love that you're sitting here breastfeeding during this
right?
conversation. No, it's cool.
While we're sitting here being woo woo and talking about how it's a psychedelic experience, like as a woman, you are a portal between for life to come to earth. And whatever your religious or spiritual beliefs are, like you can't deny the fact that the mother is some sort of gateway or portal.
Well, and I totally agree that the birthing process is a spiritual process. And I think, I mean, in my personal beliefs, that the identity of that child starts to be formed at conception. And everything that happens after conception is going to impact that child, their health, their personality, their outlook on life, how they experience the world. And if the first entry into the world, out of this safe womb of comfort and into the world, is a traumatic experience, then that is going to shape the future perception of that child. And I don't think it's very empowering for the mother or for the child. And I have heard a lot of women in my life who had had hospital births have a really hard time integrating what happened to them because their power was taken away from them. Whether it was an emergency C-section, whether it was put your legs in the holsters and take an epidural and just lay there passively. It's just everything is aimed at taking away the power of the woman and the baby.
And I guess I always want to go a little bit deeper as to why. And again, I guess I really, there's no way to avoid being kind of woo woo or kind of,
Conspiratorial.
Yep. For lack of a better word, like I know there's so many, negative connotations with that word, but the truth is what happens when we keep women from going through the most empowering experience that a human can possibly go through. Like if you keep a woman from going through that experience, number one, it biologically separates her and her bond from her child, right? Like just chemically, the hormones don't release the way that they're supposed to, that tell you you are now responsible for this child. So now we have women that are less connected to their children, and those children become more impressionable by somebody who's not their actual parents, right? And so there's that. And then if you keep women disempowered, then it's going to keep us more passive and more likely to obey.
Yeah, well, and I think it's just whether intentional or not, we've built a machine that is definitely oppressing people 100%. I think the entire medical model, the entire healthcare system, the entire government, like nothing is built to empower and really lead us to enriching lives, unfortunately. What was that? I sent you a good quote recently. What was it about the when you obey, you contribute nothing to the universe. And I think so many people are stuck in feeling like they have to obey because
These
it's
unnatural
scary.
laws.
Yeah, and it's scary not to because we have that part of us that wants to belong to the collective and that part of us that wants to assimilate and fit in, right? Like that's primal, but to go astray is scary. And so I understand why people don't go that route. Like I really do. But at the same time, I think it's costing us more than we can afford to give. So I've actually got to be a part of most of your births. I think your very first birth, you were struggling. I got in a plane. I arrived right after your first daughter was born. And then the last three, I was there. This current one, I was just kind of watching from the corner.
Didn't even know.
Didn't even know. Just kind of walked in, and as soon as I walked in, I told you I was here telepathically, and then the baby started coming. So I don't know. I'm just saying. But it's such a cool thing to experience. And I will say, like, the first couple births were really kind of freaky to me. But like once I could get over my squeamishness, it's actually like such a cool and primal process to be a part of or to watch or to witness, because I think we don't get to experience that level of primalness. That's the only word that's coming to me. That just like I am a badass, strong woman, and like hear me roar. Like that's what it looks like watching you give birth.
Well, having 4 incredibly different births, I feel like I've learned a lot. And in learning a lot, it's that you don't know nothing. You don't know anything about how what needs to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like every single birth has been so wildly different. The only thing or only advice anybody could walk away with is that surrender is absolutely the key component. Surrender, surrender, surrender. Which is so against what we've learned in our culture. Our culture has been so control everything, especially around birth and hospitals, like control every part of it. And it's like birth just doesn't, it is not linear. It can go forward, it can go backwards, it can freaking spin you around in circles and stall out for hours upon hours. And so the very, very first labor, I was like every little Braxton Hick, not even a full blown contraction. Every little feeling, I was like, and I made it really, 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 really difficult on myself by just thinking it was just going to be difficult. And I remember just being so in my head and wanting to control it and thinking like it's unfair that somebody else can't do this work for me. And I thankfully had a very experienced midwife in Georgia that she pushed me through that labor. Like she was not gonna let me not figure it out. I mean, there's no other choice to figure it out. The only way to is through. It's such a real saying for labor. And so she and we talk about interventions, like she intervened at the times that were most important. So overall the labor was 26 hours. And I was just crawling around my apartment, just clenching and not letting go, not leaning in, just being like, fuck this. And finally they were very respectful. The midwife was like, I don't think she had checked me at all at any point, or maybe she checked me when she got there, like how dilated it was, and it was like 2 centimeters after having like a miserable night. And I just felt so defeated. And at one point she's like, let me check you again. And I think what she did is she broke my waters, but because she checked me and I rolled over and my bag of waters broke. And then I was only 8 centimeters dilated, and she grabbed a birthing chair and was like, you need to start pushing gently. And I was pushed for probably about 2.5 hours. And at that point I was falling asleep in between contractions to push the baby out, like ring of fire, transitioning, literally snoring in between contractions, you know. So that was my first experience. And then, man, the second one, I had prom, which is considered premature rupture of membranes. I mean, I was like 41 weeks, so it wasn't like the baby was coming early, but my bag of waters was leaking and I wasn't starting contractions. And so we did that for about a week, which again, amazing supportive birth team that most people be like, sorry, you're going to the hospital. Like, you have to have the baby now. Now, that being said, we were very on top of like every hour. I had to take my temperature. I had to take a crap ton of echinacea, a crap ton of vitamin C to make sure that no infection started. Some people believe that the bag of waters can replenish, but it doesn't matter if they're licensed on their line, right, in that case. We got to, I remember, because you were there, I remember going to the farmer's market and it was like raining like crazy, and the midwives called and they're like, look, one of them was comfortable waiting. The other one in the practice was like, I'm not comfortable. She's got to go to the hospital. And I was like, well, I'm not going to the hospital, so what can I do? And she's like, well, you can swing by my office and you can get an herbal tincture of black and blue cohosh to kickstart labor. If what you're having is not enough oxytocin in your system, it's the same concept as Pitocin.
Right, inducing contractions. But hold on, I remember searching up and down for blue and black cohosh at the stores around Georgia. I don't remember getting it from your midwife. and then your friend Molly finally came through
Oh, okay.
with
I
some
think
tincture. So they
I
didn't
think the
actually give
midwife.
it to you. They just
Okay,
told you to go do it.
I thought she had one but not the other.
Maybe that's what it was, because I remember going to store after store looking. So like she probably had black cohosh, and then blue cohosh is a little more controversial, so maybe it wasn't like as readily available. And then you had that hippie friend who
She was an herbalist, just like you.
she's
Made her
dope,
own
dude.
tincture. Like she was so clutch on everything.
She really was. She's amazing. Actually, she was very inspirational to me at that time in my life. But yeah, she came through, and we basically induced that labor.
Yeah, we took I don't remember how much at the time, but yeah, I remember it was St. Patrick's Day, raining
Mm-hmm.
like crazy. We ate some steak and cheese and Irish soda bread, and
Watch Stranger Things.
we were watching Stranger Things. I fell asleep on the couch, and I had been doing the dosage of the cohosh, and then woke up probably around midnight. And I was like, man, I really got to go to the bathroom. I think I had diarrhea. Stood in the shower, started puking everywhere, and then I was like, oh, okay, this is happening. But it was like a punch in the face, sort of like, we're going.
Yep.
And I remember trying to do like some belly dancing, trying to just do everything the opposite. Surrender a little bit, help my body move through the contractions. Like I remember just holding onto a dresser, trying to just move my hips. And then, and this is how birth works, right? When you have the correct hormones, I only remember bits and pieces. Like I'm sure Alexis remembers, or Lila remembers it a whole lot different. But I remember getting in the water and just being like, I feel like pushing. And I was like, it's too early because the last one was so long. And they're like, well, push. I was like, okay. And so I remember I had her in the birthing tub, and I was pushing. Like, I guess I bear down hard when it comes to pushing. And I was like pushing the water out of the pool because I was pushing down so hard on the side. And Lila was at that birth, and I remember her saying like, hey, I'll be there to help you. I'll do the cooking and keep things clean and support you, but I want nothing to do with the labor. Like, I think she thought she was going to go into a room, shut the door, and just like come out and there was going to be a baby. I remember seeing her when I was sitting in the birth pool and making eye contact, and she was in the kitchen like looking like scared as shit, like what the hell is happening.
Oh, yeah.
I think she was trying to control my playlist too, which I have no idea what was even remotely playing. There's
Oh,
just a
you're welcome.
lot. I mean, it happened so fast, and it was like the middle of the night. Everybody had to wake up and get the midwives over there. But yeah, I remember that was a pretty fast one, and getting out of the tub and just holding the baby for an hour before even checking, like if it was a boy or a girl. Because I didn't do any ultrasounds the first two pregnancies. There was nothing wrong, and there was no reason to.
Yeah.
And then just checked, and I was like, okay, it's a girl. And I kind of had already known. Yeah.
Yeah, but that birth was really fast, and I did not want anything. I was very squeamish at that point, and the midwife's like, "Can you come hold the birthing pool?" And at a certain point, she's like, "Never mind, you got to go. You look like you're gonna pass out."
Yeah.
That midwife was intense. She was intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was. She was.
She got she knew what needed to be done when, and yeah,
And
they're
that's
amazing.
probably what you needed for those births for whatever reason.
Right. And she was intense, but like at the same time, incredibly, incredibly honoring. Like I didn't know she was intense. I mean, I knew she was very strong-willed of what she believed. Like the beautiful thing is during pregnancy and working with a midwife, you spend so much time talking to them. Like you start out seeing them once a month, and then it gets down to you seeing them once a week, but you're spending an hour with them every time. This isn't like popping in, seeing what OB is dealing with you today, and then popping out. Like this is you spend an hour. I brought, my oldest daughter to the appointments for my second baby. She was using the fetoscope to listen. We were talking about if it's a boy, are we circumcising, why we shouldn't, are there any benefits to doing it? Like, we went through all of that stuff. Vaccines, interventions, vitamin K, all of it. All of
Mm-hmm.
it. Breastfeeding, like, we went through everything. They have a wealth of knowledge. So yeah, while she was really intense on the sidelines, like I said, I birthed the baby and sat with an hour just holding her and nursing her, and they didn't they didn't interrupt any of that.
Yeah, which is really cool. That's really great. And that's so different than hospital processes, right? Like it's immediately cut the umbilical cord, wash the baby. You're lucky if you get to hold it. You are lucky if you're the first person to hold it in a hospital. It them.
Real honoring.
Um, I try. Well, then the third birth was kind of terrifying. That baby was huge.
Yeah, I mean, we were expecting big baby, so different dad. My current partner is 6'3" linebacker, like super wide shoulders. And he says he's the runt of his family. Most people are closer to 7 feet in his family. So we were expecting a big baby. How big? Yeah, and so that was another fun one because we got to this, and this is with a different new midwife team out in California. We got to 41 and a half weeks, and the midwives were like, okay, the last day you can have the baby before we have to take you to the hospital, because it's 42 weeks, that's what their license says, is Christmas. And they're like, do you want to wait until Christmas and try and have this baby, or do you want to try some sort of natural induction? And I mean, at that point, they were like really confident the baby is going to be, it had cooked plenty of time. Now, I am definitely of the mindset of like, baby knows when they're ready. Obviously, I have some problem with making oxytocin or something. So we got down to the very, very wire. On the 23rd, the midwives called and were like, hey, last day you can have the baby is the 25th. Do you want to try the cohosh? If your body's not ready, you won't have the baby. I mean, if you take castor oil, not cohosh. So I think I called Lila, told her like, I don't know, did you go and get it from me? I can't remember.
Yeah, I went and picked up castor oil and vanilla ice cream.
Castor oil and vanilla ice cream. I had this cake batter flavored vanilla almond butter and mixed that up. Took it. I mean, I remember going to the coffee shop in the morning, eating some macarons, and while you were getting all that stuff, met at my house. It was probably like what, 11, 1.
Yeah.
Sometime between 11 and 1, I took the castor oil and like less than 30 minutes went upstairs, threw up everywhere, and it was like my whole body just went into like full-blown labor. I just remember being like, the midwives had just got there, and because they're like, if you're going to take castor oil, we're going to head up. They had about an hour drive to my house, and they got there, and they're like, we're just going to set our things down. We're going to go get some tea and lunch and stuff. And as they're setting their stuff down to turn around and walk out, I was standing at my bathroom counter. My water just broke everywhere, and I was like, oh fuck, my water just broke. And I just went straight to all fours. Like, it was. And they got the tub filled up, got in the tub, and just labored hard. And then the midwife was checking something, and she's like, get out of the tub. She thought she felt a foot. It was his hand. She later found out. She thought he was going to be breech, and she was very comfortable delivering a breech baby, but a giant breech baby is going to be tough.
Well, there was actually like two moments during that birth. There was like get out of the bath. I think something's wrong. And so she got you out of the bath, and I think we put you on the bed. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, okay, it's fine. And then it was like, keep pushing. I
squatted and was pushing for a minute.
Yeah. But then there was a point where she's like, get her on her back now. And Jim and I like lifted you. And I don't remember if we lifted you from the bed to the floor or we moved you somewhere.
I was squatting against the birth tub. And Jim she said, lay her the fuck down or something like that.
It was very intense. And so like Jim and I grabbed you and we put you on your back, and she pushed your legs up and pushed your knees in, and it was like, oh, okay, shit, like shoot. She locked in.
She locked in.
She locked in, and that baby was big.
Well, from my understanding, he got stuck at his eyes, like the bridge of his nose, and then got stuck at his shoulders, and then his body got stuck on the way out. I mean, luckily, like, she knows what she's doing, so she just helped, turn him through it. But I think him being stuck at the bridge, like, it had to happen fast. And yeah, she locked in and she got that baby out. She had to pull him out and they gave him oxygen after because he wasn't really coming to it very fast. My partner Jim, he's a chiropractor too, so adjusted his atlas like literally seconds after because he wasn't really responding. And he came around quick, started crying a little bit, nursed, and has been the chillest dude ever since. But yes, he was
Yeah.
11 pounds, 4 ounces. 11 pounds, 4 ounces. Yep.
And that was the biggest placenta I think they'd ever seen. Or it was like you made like the placenta greatest hits. Your placenta was like a whole second birth for you.
Yeah. The placenta was a lot.
Well,
But
and I think
no tearing.
what?
No tearing. I didn't tear at all. Like my perineum did not tear.
That's amazing. Well, and I think like somebody listening to these stories could hear like, "Oh, look at all the things that went wrong," but I really think that this is kind of a natural part of the birthing process. Like it doesn't
Totally.
just like, the baby just doesn't slide out on a slip and slide. It's,
So some people it does. Some people it does. I mean, it's just different. Every birth is different. Every person is different. Everything. But like, yeah, it's definitely an ode to the midwives. Like they know what the hell they're doing. They know how to deal with, you know, things that are wrong. They're not really wrong.
yeah, right. That's a great way to put it. And so your fourth child, I think, went pretty smoothly, although it was a very fast labor. It was kind of fast and dirty.
Well, it was another moment. Went up to last minute. They're like, you have to have him in the next 2 days. You want to try the cohosh today? So we did cohosh again.
I thought you did castor oil.
Castor oil. I'm sorry. Yes, they both start with C. Mom
That's
brain.
true.
Yes, castor oil. So we got the castor oil, did it in the morning. Nothing was really starting. The midwives were heading up. About an hour later, they're like, nothing's started other than, I mean, I had horrible diarrhea. Went and did more castor oil. Again, like, it was like I could kind of feel contractions, but they were chill and mellow. I got a birth swing, so I was like hanging from the ceiling and just like rocking my hips and just having a whole lot of diarrhea. And then I stood in my bathroom for a little bit and was just timing mellow contractions. They're probably like 5 or 6 minutes apart. And I was eating pistachios and bread and just talking, and everything was fairly normal. And then I was like, man, they had me do like meditations. I went and did meditations. I did the breast pump. I tried a whole bunch of stuff before I went and stood at the counter and started eating a bunch of stuff. And then I got really, really tired. And so like for time reference, I took the castor oil at 9 a.m., walked around the block with the kids, just kept moving, waiting for this to happen. And then probably about 3 o'clock, I was like, man, I'm freaking exhausted. But I was having those kind of mellow contractions every 5 or 6 minutes. So I went and laid down in bed. And I remember, like, I would kind of come out of my sleep for a little bit, but wouldn't open my eyes, and just kind of like, I'd feel like a contraction and make like a little bit of a noise, but not anything crazy. And then I woke up, I'm like, they're getting stronger. I'm thinking in my head, they're getting stronger. And I woke up and I saw Jim sitting on the chair next to the bed, just timing, just listening. And I was like, let's go. Or like, are they downstairs? And he's like, no, they went home. They said, we'll try again tomorrow. Since nothing was really happening. I was like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. And one of the issues we were having too is the baby wasn't really engaging in the pelvis a ton. Like he was kind of sitting high. And so when I woke up, hear that the midwives left, I'm like, I need to get on the floor. I was like, can you get me a chair or a birthing ball? And I can't even honestly remember. I was on my hands and knees and I was pushing down on the ball or the chair and having contractions next to the bed. And I was like, you know what? I need to put a leg up. So I put a leg up like a lunge position, and my water broke. And I was like, you need to fucking call the midwives right now. Call them. Because I knew as soon as my water broke, like this is going to be really fast, because I ain't sitting through this shit. Like, we're doing it. And so we called them, and they just got down to Escondido, which is 30 minutes from my house, in traffic.
Yes.
Like, it's like 4:30, and they have to deal with traffic coming back up. And I was like, holy shit, they're not going to make it. And I was like, it's just going to be me and Jim. And I was like, and he's not going to know how to help unstuck a giant ass baby. And so I was kind of freaking out. Like, I would let myself kind of be present during the contraction. I was trying to let go, but at the same time, between every contraction, when I can't, it's like you become lucid again. When I get lucid, I was like, okay, where are they at? Okay, did you talk to them? Okay, what's going on? And I was moving from the toilet to the bathroom, and I ended up in the bathroom like with one of those workers mats, like the really squishy mats for someone who's like laying tile or something. And I was kneeling on that. I had a hard chair, and I was pushing into the chair to try and push him down. But by the time the midwives got there, about like 40 minutes later, I was crossing my legs, but you can't help but to bear down and push. I was crossing my legs and pushing. And they literally walked in and they're like, oh my gosh, is that the head? That's the head. Okay, fuck. And I pushed out the head in like two real guttural pushes.
It was fast. It was so fast.
We're talking about you. We're talking about you, baby Bricks.
And this was another big ass baby.
Yes. And they had to, again, flip me on my back and then unstuck his shoulders and help pull out his body. And then I just laid on the bathroom floor. Yeah, just like shaking for 45 minutes because it was so intense, so fast. Like by the time I had like serious active labor was like probably an hour, just over an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's one. It's a little bit unfortunate that the licensure of the midwife still dictates a little bit the birthing process. Not to the same degree as the hospitals do, but that is definitely a constraint I acknowledge that still lives in that system.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely asked them. I was like, would I have ever had that baby if we didn't do that stuff? They're like, yeah. It just,
Yeah.
There was no reason for these babies getting bigger. I mean, Brixton was 10 pounds, 6 ounces. Like,
yeah.
It's a good, healthy baby. And like when all the babies that I had, they didn't have a ton of vernix on them. So I think they were pretty, that creamy white stuff on the baby. I think they were pretty ready when they got here. But the beautiful thing is, like, they're okay. We went right up to 42 weeks in the medical field. A lot of them are like, if you're 40 weeks, you're late. And it's like, that baby can be born anytime between 37 and 42 weeks. So this whole due date thing is just a guess.
Well, it really is, because the date and from my understanding, it's really hard to actually pin down the date of conception, right? Like that's not an exact, unless you're really tracking and stuff, like that's not an exact science in itself.
And I mean, everybody's different. Like the way your body goes into labor is the hormones sync up between the mother and the child, and they start syncing. And then that's how labor starts.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, not to get on my soapbox, but I do think the way that we're birthing babies is just a little bit of a reflection of some of the challenges we're facing in society right now, of wanting to be controlling everything, of productivity being the most important thing, just not being in our power. And I remember being in college. I was a quarter of the hippie I am now, and I knew someone who was scheduling her due date because her doctor was going to go on vacation. So she scheduled a C-section early. And in my opinion, that is I was outraged.
It's especially when you understand that one day in utero is equivalent to 2 weeks of neurological development outside. Like, that's a ton. And we're deciding when that stops. You're bringing kids into this world prematurely and crudely. And so, yeah, the amount of kids with anxiety and ADD and depression and autism and all of this stuff, I think, yes, our birthing process has a huge effect on that. And like you mentioned earlier, the blueprint, right? Our genetic blueprint, right? Genes they fire based off of the blueprint that's created in utero. And Bruce Lipton talks about that a lot. Like, you're going to have a pretty good idea of how your kid's life is going to go based off of how the mom was during pregnancy. The more stressed she is, the more issue that kid's going to have, the more stress that kid's system is going to be, right?
Well, the other thing that's happening right now is women, not just women, but our society is, we have this phenomenon of people are overfed, we're getting too many calories, but we're undernourished because the calories aren't nutrient dense. And so we are about 2 or 3 generations out from really undernourished women giving birth. And we are perpetuating this undernourishment. And we are not, well, it's interesting because just in the way that society is shaped, what used to survive back in the day for the strongest and fittest genes isn't what survives now. Right now, the type of person that has the best chance of longevity in this lifetime isn't, again, the hardy person that'd be working the fields and, you know, going till they're 90. It's, we prize a different type of genetics now, right? Like now, if you can be on the computer and make money, you're the one that's like, your DNA is getting passed down. So it's just this interesting thing that's happening, of like where the intersection of the natural world and our artificial world are shaping things. And it's just really unfortunate that we're not being as considerate as I think we could be when having children. I don't know how consciously we're deciding to bring children into this world, and how we're not necessarily doing the prep work we need to do as, and I have no place to say this, I don't have children, but you know, we're not necessarily doing the work to prep ourselves to give that baby the best chance, because we set the tone for that baby's immunity. We set the tone for that baby's nervous system. We set the tone for that baby's nutrient status from the get-go. And if we're undernourished, if our mothers were undernourished, our babies are undernourished, then we're just creating a lot of undernourished people and not giving them the best chance at health and happiness.
It's okay. They're putting folic acid in the tortillas. We're going to be fine.
Oh, God. Folic acid, the synthetic form of folate that is very problematic. Lovely.
Right. Yeah.
Lovely.
Well, I mean, one thing you said that was important too, is immune system. One thing that we don't talk about enough is kids passing through the vaginal canal. That's how they get their blueprint for their microbiome, right? Which is linked to our digestive system, but our overall immune system as well.
And mental health and our neurological health. It's all connected.
Right. So it's like, if we look at the amount of Google that really quick. What is the C-section percentage on average right now?
The rate's approximately 32.3% in the United States.
I think that's accurate. That seems low to me.
I mean, that's 1 in 3 babies.
I still think it's lower. I think if you went hospital by hospital, I think you would see higher rates, like between 60-70%.
Well, here's what's really interesting is countries like Chad, Ethiopia, Madagascar all have extremely low rates, under 2%.
Well, that's how it used to be. A C-section was truly an emergency, not scheduled because your doctor's going out of town. I've heard so many stories of women getting to 9 centimeters and just not being able to push their baby out. Like, what? And so they went into an emergency C, or not to mention like the constant monitoring of the baby, and or these drugs that are being used, and now the baby's heart rate drops and suddenly it's an emergency. Well,
I think the whole process is just really laced with fear, right? Our medical system is built around what can go wrong, not what can go right.
Well,
and
that's the other thing. If you're working with an OB, right, your whole pregnancy is laced with that same fear of, we need to do an ultrasound once a month. We need to do this test. We have to do that test. We have to like I denied every single test. I did an ultrasound, an anatomy scan with the 2 boys because their dad wanted to know their sex. It's something that we agreed on. But other than that, I didn't even do a glucose test. Like, it's not even a fair test.
Yeah. Well, and that's just such a great point, is not to comment on whether someone should get the test or not, but it is designed to find what can go wrong, what can go wrong, what can go wrong. And it's not necessarily like, if you are displaying symptoms or issues, then we discover what's wrong. We are proactively looking for trouble. I find this, this is my personal opinion about a lot of screenings that we do. We're taking completely healthy people and we're looking for what's going wrong, which puts us in a state of fear, which absolutely impacts our health extremely negatively. And so I
Puts
think
us
that
in
there's
fight
just,
or fight, so then those values do change. Because if you're in fight or fight, then yeah, you're gonna have a higher blood pressure, a higher heart rate. You're gonna be have a higher, glucose level if you're in fight or flight. So yeah, that's
yeah.
completely unfair.
Yep. Well, and think about the moms that are, 9 centimeters dilated and, they have these stories, they have people telling them things like they're in a state of fear. Of course, they're going to surrender. I think a lot of people in that situation would do that out of fear to save their babies or, because they're the catastrophizing of what can go wrong is really really real and really like present and in their face, right? We're not sending them messages of empowerment or messages of what could go right or messages of, this is normal, this is natural. Like we are just so far removed from that. So
Hmm.
I understand why people go that route. I think C-sections are a great medical breakthrough to have when necessary, right? Like in, like you said, true emergencies, but they should not be the go-to, even though they're more convenient, I think, for a lot of reasons.
Totally,
Well, is
totally
there
agree.
anything that you'd want to say to somebody considering a home birth, or thinking about it, or that's pregnant or wanting to get pregnant that may just help them on their path to finding health and happiness and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, I would say first and foremost, do the research. And I feel like it's hard to say research now because I personally don't even, I don't trust most research studies because of who most of them are funded by. Um, but I would say in doing the research, like read some books. Ina May Gaskin is a great, great, great place just to start. She has a book that's called The Guide to Childbirth that breaks down ultrasounds and all the different tests, and it gives you a list of questions to ask an OB. Most midwives do free consultations. Go do a consultation with some midwives in your area. Like it literally doesn't hurt. Like figure out what is going to be best for you and your family, but figure it out from a place that like, oh, I've talked to people, I've researched, ask the OBs what their cesarean section rate is, like ask the episiotomy rates, ask the transfer rate to the midwife, like ask the freaking questions and take control in the places that you can take control, so when it comes down to you being in labor, you can surrender. You're not going like, oh well, I'm gonna fight for the natural birth in the hospital and my husband knows to fight. Like, trust me, that's a hard fight to win. It is a hard fight to win when you have nurses and doctors in your face telling you that the mom's gonna die or the kid's gonna die if you don't do X, Y, Z. You know.
Right. Well, and that's such a great point that being the energy of fighting being what you're doing in your labor and what you're bringing your child into, like that's not the energy you want to be in. You do not want to be in fight energy. Like you said, you want to be in surrender energy, and that's not an environment that promotes or supports surrender energy.
And
You
so
have
the
to
other
be in.
thing, yeah, you deserve to go through childbirth. It's not a curse. It's not, the cardinal sin situation. Like it is, you're a different person on the other side. I mean, a lot of researchers are talking about how much a mother heals during pregnancy and labor, right? By sharing the cells with her baby. Like it's such an honoring thing to go through, and it is the toughest thing to go through, but like I said, you are a different person on the other side. And there's some speculation that a mom will go through what they need to go through during the childbirth to be the parent for that kid. So that's, I mean, it really prepares you.
Well, bringing it back to psychedelics, a mushroom trip, good or bad, they always say you get the trip that you need. And it's so funny because all your childbirths were so different. All your children are so different. Like every single one of your children is just like, they're so unique in their own personalities and their own way of being and interacting with the world. So that's really cool. And I think that just brings it full circle to the psychedelic thing. But what I will say when exploring any sort of health intervention, whether it's childbirth or how you're dealing with your complex chronic disease, whatever it is, I just want to encourage people to try and make the decisions from love and not from fear. I think that's a really big piece that's missing from how we care for ourselves in any of these situations is how do we sit in the seat of love, trust, surrender, expansion, not fear, because that puts us in a energy that is the complete opposite of anything healing.
Absolutely.
Well, is there anything else you want to add?
No. I mean, to,
No.
to talk about four home births and less than an hour is pretty impressive.
I know. I might have to have you back to expand on something someday.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you for being a model of what it means to bring babies in naturally. And I think that's really inspiring just to watch and be a part of. I think it's really, really cool. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.